Hello and welcome to today's webinar titled What is Microsoft Copilot? My name is Dougie Wood and I'm the Creative Director here at Valto, and I'm going to be talking to you today about all things Microsoft Copilot. So what is it? Well, it's an AI-powered virtual assistant. It's a chat interface, so if you've already been using ChatGPT, then you'll be familiar with the kind of functionality that you can use to create automated text. It's designed for streamlining workflows and making your work life easier. It works across all the entire Microsoft 365 suite of applications, so that's Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and more. Microsoft have not yet announced a full release date, but we're going to show you some of the features and some of the things you can use this for in today's webinar. So the first is business chat. So Copilot will be available to use in two different ways. It'll be embedded within all Microsoft 365 apps, but it'll also be available within its own app called Business Chat. So Copilot Business Chat uses data from across Microsoft 365 to summarize chats, write emails, find important dates, and even create plans based on project files. And you can see here on the right hand side, it's very similar to ChatGPT in the way that you can interact with it, but you can see that it's also pulling out information from your Microsoft 365, things like people's user accounts, documents, and other useful links. It's embedded directly inside of Microsoft Teams, so you can get access to it directly as if you were sort of chatting to a colleague. You can see that it's accessible from that chat icon inside of Microsoft Teams. So you've got everything you need under one roof. You don't have to go out to a separate application. The next feature is Copilot in Word. So this will allow you to write, edit, and summarize content in real time using natural language commands, which essentially means you can write in your own words what you want it to do, and it will generate that for you. It will offer suggestions for sentence rephrasing, grammar corrections, and even alternative word choices. It can provide research assistance, meaning that you can look up things either from documents that you've got created inside of your Microsoft 365 or externally. It'll help with formatting and styling, including applying styles, headers, and footers to your documents. It'll even pull through images as well, based on what you ask it to do. You can provide templates for common document types. So if you're already using, like we can see here on the right hand side, a certain document type, you can actually ask it to use that as a template to get started with your document. It can generate automatic outlines of table, of contents, and other sort of Microsoft Word functionality. It can create and edit tables and charts, and what Microsoft are referring to is that actually at the moment people are only using like 10% of the functionality that the Microsoft Office suite of tools can achieve, whereas Microsoft Copilot will then unlock all the additional features, things like using tables and charts and advanced kind of functions that people might not necessarily be taking advantage of. It can suggest and insert relevant images and media, images that maybe you've got already inside of Microsoft 365 or from its own stock image library. And it will also aid in, sorry, it will also help with the summaries and the references that you might need at the end of your documentation. The next is Copilot in Excel. So this is a really exciting one. So it will identify trends and patterns in large data sets, meaning that you could have, say, for example, your sales information, and then you can use Copilot, like we can see on the right-hand side, to ask it to identify some key trends. So it's automatically analyze this and provide those trends directly for you. You can also drill down further into that to explain a little bit more detail and ask it to drill into further information. You can ask it to help visualize certain information, and it can then generate charts based on information that is automatically found from within inside of your Excel document. You can create those visualizations and charts and graphs really simply, really easily, and it can provide a quick access to common Excel functions as well, such as sum, average, and count. So if you're struggling with creating more advanced kind of functions inside of Excel, then you can use Copilot to help streamline that process. It will automatically generate formulas and suggest the best one to use based on the data, but it will kind of consult with you along the way, as well as offering real-time data analysis and insights as users work in Excel. It'll help users quickly find and fix errors in their data, and it's almost treating it as like a second pair of eyes. And that's why I love the name Copilot, because it is like having a sort of second person there working alongside you, that if it spots something that's not quite right or it's got an error, it'll help you troubleshoot and it'll help you work through that. And it will assist you with creating and formatting tables, charts, and pivot tables. It will provide that personalized kind of recommendations as we saw before. So if you're asking it for things like trends, it can identify that data and then actually provide it back to you as specific recommendations. So next we've got Copilot in Outlook. So everyone's familiar with Outlook in the sense that we can create emails and send emails to people. But actually the benefit of Copilot is that it will actually allow you to create first drafts of emails and things like that and work with you. And the cool thing I like about this is that you can also choose the style of writing as well. So you can see here that it's actually picking out different types of draft responses, or you can even put in a custom response and include things like document attachments, things like that, which are relevant to that particular conversation. You can choose to maybe make the message a bit shorter, and there's the different stylings there. So you could maybe make it a little bit more formal style of email if you wanted to, or it could be a bit more relaxed, a bit more kind of friendly. But essentially, this will allow you to prioritize emails for more efficient communication. So it will really make things a lot more streamlined, having to respond to things or summarize kind of where you're up to with a project, or pulling out key information from documents and then generate an email update based on them. It'll provide real-time translation for messages sent in different languages as well. So this is something that's really exciting for people that are sort of collaborating with people from other areas of the world. It will suggest appropriate channels for communication as well as scheduling meetings and appointments with natural language commands. So everything we're talking about with natural language commands just means that we can talk to it in our own sort of language. Say, can you create me a email to send to all staff to let them know that there's a change in policy? And just from that short sentence, it might want to flesh it out a bit further. It could maybe come back with you some additional questions and ask, well, what policy? Do you want to provide a link to that policy? It might even suggest certain policy documents that it's found that relates to that topic. It'll provide intelligent meeting summaries and action items as well. So this is something that Microsoft have been talking about for a long time, which would be really useful and to see this embedded inside of Microsoft Teams. But actually, you could be having a conversation and it could be writing down almost a list of actions that it can take away. This can then be fed into something like Outlook, which actually can then give you prompts and reminders. It can assist with drafting and sending emails. So as we saw before, you can give it a little bit of a prompt and then it will draft the emails. Microsoft are very keen on calling this Copilot and calling these drafts and things like that because you're still in control. You can ask it for alterations, you can input information into it, and you can scrap it and make it start again if you wanted to. It's only generating you the draft, and then you can then make alterations to it, and then choose if you want to move forward with that piece of text. And it will allow you to provide personalized recommendations. So it will actually start to learn a little bit more about you, the way that you write, the way that you talk, and it'll start putting things together in a way that actually looks like it's being communicated from you. The next is Copilot in Power Platform. So again, really exciting stuff as we've seen in recent kind of releases, that actually Copilot is going to make a massive difference to Power Platform. So Power Platform already is designed to make it nice and easy for people to get started building out business applications using low code or even no code to fix a business process. But you can see with this Copilot for Power Platform, it's now taking it to the next level where you can type in something like, when an item is added to a SharePoint list, I want you to send an email, for example, and then it'll start pulling out the actions from Power Automate to allow you to choose what it is that you're building. So just with natural language like this, we're able to create apps from scratch, create automated workflows from scratch, and it's building this all out readily in front of us just by us typing in our own instructions about what we want it to actually do. So again, it's streamlining that process of having to learn Power Automate in order to create automated workflows to make your sort of business applications that bit more efficient. Copilot can assist with the low-code development tasks, allowing developers of all skill levels to create applications and workflows with ease. So this to me means that we can even bring in people with even sort of less experience of coding and development and things like that, and start getting them involved with Power Platform even earlier than potentially some citizen developers are already getting started. Um, Copilot for Power Platform identifies patterns in data and creates charts and graphs to visualize trends and insights. So again, we can use this for creating those visualizations nice and easy. It'll suggest automation tasks such as triggering a Power Automate flow based on specific user actions. As well as Copilot can help with data entry by offering suggestions and completing fields automatically. So again, it's that second pair of eyes over your shoulder as you're building out this business application, which is going to be checking things as you go along and helping you to build something. So if you aren't too sure, you can ask it and say, okay, well, I want to build X, Y, and Z, and then it will start that process for you. It'll provide guidance on how to use Power Platform tools and features, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. So that guidance, it's like having your own sort of virtual trainer sat there with you, showing you what you can do. Again, unlocking more and more of that functionality that we might not necessarily be taking advantage of right now. So what are the benefits? So the key benefits are to allow improved navigation. So it's taking it to an extra step where we're no longer having to almost interact with something on a manual basis and click through different buttons to build something. We're using our own human language. So even things like Google, when you're Googling something, it's very rare that you're actually asking it a full length question or asking it in human language. It's usually quite abbreviated, just keywords that we're putting into Google. Whereas actually using something like Microsoft Copilot, we're talking to it as if it's a real person. You're talking to it as a chat bot essentially, and it'll be asking you questions and it'll be refining things. You can also use chatbots to sort of ask them to ask you questions if they don't understand. So you could say, this is the task that I'm trying to complete. Ask me questions until you're comfortable that you understand what it is that I'm trying to achieve. And then it will ask you questions to build up that knowledge essentially of what it's trying to achieve. It enhances collaboration. So it makes it even easier to work on a project together. Um, it will also allow you to adjust your styling of the way you're communicating. So if you know that you've been told in the past maybe your emails sound a bit blunt or that they're not very warm or they're not very kind of got that warm fuzzy feeling about them, you can use some of these tools to help rewrite emails that you're sending out to maybe give them a bit of a friendlier feel. I know when I've kind of used these kind of tools in the past before to reword certain things, it can really make quite a difference and it gives that kind of polished feel to what it is that you're trying to communicate. It will increase the efficiency. So cannot be understated that actually the levels of efficiency of using these tools, as I say, it's unlocking functions and features of these tools that we talked about that we're maybe not using all that often. So it might be that you're using Excel for putting in tables and data entry and things like that, but you don't know how to create a pivot table or create some charts or some trending kind of graphs. So actually, you could just go to Copilot, treat it like you're collaborating with an expert, an in-house expert, and say, how do I create a pivot table from this information, or can you create me a chart to show how this data is trending, and it will go and do it for you. So it's just going to make things even more efficient, and it's going to cut down on things. So I've seen people using these sort of tools recently for helping rewrite policies and things like that. So you can get the core information down of what you want the policy to include, and then you can use these tools to actually write the full thing. Obviously, you check it through and make alterations, but it gives it that nice polished feel without having to use a kind of external copywriter to do that. It provides personalized recommendations. So the more that you use AI and the more that you're kind of interacting with it, the more it's going to start understanding the way that you work, the way that you sort of talk and communicate, and it's going to start personalizing these recommendations to you. It will know, for example, the sort of documents that you're working with on a sort of day-to-day basis and the context of what things are being used as, and it will start suggesting them. So if it sees that you're writing an email about a certain project, it might start pulling up kind of documents and links which relate to that project that you might want to use inside of an email, for example. It can provide some great assistance with onboarding new users as well. I mean, think about all the different ways that you could automate onboarding sort of activities using this set of tools. The new starters themselves could use Copilot to interrogate some of your kind of documents and policies and things like that. If they've got questions, it can pull that kind of information out and display that to them, as well as you can create quite quickly some new workflows, maybe in Power Automate, to help with the onboarding tasks and processes and things like that, as well as data visualizations. Now, I know I keep banging the drum about this, but a lot of people are used to data entry and storing that data and using it in things like Excel, but maybe not so much using things like Power BI or Excel charts for data visualization. But actually, using Microsoft Copilot, you'll be able to leverage a lot of the functionality that is in the background that maybe you just don't know is there, so you can create these data visualizations. It's also going to help with writing, editing, and summarizing content. I actually quite like the last bit there, summarizing content, because actually this can be one of the most challenging parts of communication, is to be able to summarize what the key points are of something. So it might be that you could use this to actually sort of suck in all of the key information or policy documents, for example, and then you want it to boil down and summarize those into small paragraphs which are going to be used to communicate key information. So you could use the tools exactly for that in order to make sure that the summarized points are getting put across. But in summary, this is the kind of the future of work. A lot of people are saying that it might be a bit too early for this sort of stuff to be coming through, but I actually think it's the perfect time. It will really help in a lot of areas. It'll help people adopt Microsoft 365 quicker. It'll help people get into the Power Platform quicker because they'll be able to start building out applications. And although it's really easy at the moment to start using templates and Power Automate, there is a certain kind of learning curvature that's required to start making the most of Power Platform. But actually, this tool will help people get into there and get using it much quicker than it would do otherwise. So, so let's just move on to the Q&A section of this. Now, we're running these webinars slightly differently now. We're running them directly from YouTube. So for any of your questions, please use the comments box below, and we're going to have our experts on standby now for the next 5 minutes in order to answer any of your questions. Although obviously I can't answer the sort of the questions in live time right now verbally. What I have got is a handful of questions which have come from some of my clients I've been working with, and questions that we've been receiving about Copilot, which are some commonly asked questions. So I'm just going to run through a couple of those for you. One question I've been asked quite a lot is, will Microsoft Copilot work in SharePoint? Now, in theory, the documents which are inside of SharePoint are Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They will all be covered as part of this. But actually, SharePoint itself, in terms of the pages and the kind of the framework of that, has yet to sort of be announced that Copilot will be working directly with that. However, Microsoft is constantly working to improve and expand the capabilities of its tools, so it's possible that Copilot may be integrated with SharePoint in the future. I'd recommend checking the Microsoft documentation and updates on Copilot's availability for SharePoint periodically. Another question I've been asked recently is, what programming languages does Microsoft Copilot support? And the answer is Microsoft Copilot currently supports a wide range of programming languages, including Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, C++, Java, and many more. So in theory, pretty much most of the commonly used programming languages. Um, Another question is Microsoft Copilot free to use? So Microsoft Copilot is currently in a limited technical preview at the point of when this webinar is recorded, and is available for free to users who have been invited to participate. Once it's officially released, which again at the point of the recording we don't actually have an official release date yet, it is expected that there will be a pricing model for its usage, but that's yet to be released. Moving on, another question, can Microsoft Copilot be used offline? So no, Microsoft Copilot requires an internet connection to function, as it relies on a cloud-based machine learning model to generate code suggestions. Another programming related question was, does Microsoft Copilot have access to my code or code base? And the short answer is yes. Microsoft Copilot would require access to your code base to generate suggestions if you're looking for suggestions on how to improve your code. However, Microsoft have stated that Copilot does not retain or share any of your code, and all data is kept private and secure. Another question, can Microsoft Copilot be customized or trained to suggest specific code patterns? So Microsoft Copilot's machine learning is model based on a large data set of code, and it is continually learning and improving its suggestions. However, the short answer is it currently does not support customization or training to suggest specific code patterns. A very common question that I get asked about all of this is, how accurate is Microsoft Copilot's suggestions? So Microsoft Copilot's accuracy can vary depending on what it is that you're talking about. So if it's programming, it will depend on the code base, the context, what language you're talking about, things like that. However, in general, Copilot has been shown to be highly accurate and can significantly improve productivity. So it is incredibly accurate, sometimes quite scarily accurate. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It is very, very accurate. Almost a tongue-in-cheek question. Again, I've been asked by a lot of kind of the sort of developers and the programmers of our industry is, will Microsoft Copilot replace human developers anytime soon? And the short answer is no. Microsoft Copilot is designed to assist developers in writing code more efficiently and accurately, but it cannot replace the creativity, the intuition, and the problem-solving abilities of a human developer. Again, this is why I like the idea of calling it Copilot, as it's another pair of eyes which is looking over your shoulder. It's supporting you in what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to build, rather than just doing it for you. It's going to provide recommendations and assistance rather than just taking over and doing the full thing for you. The final question, which is on everyone's mind, is what is the date that Microsoft Copilot is going to be released? And the short answer is they've not even told us a date that they're going to give us the release date. So at this current point in time, we don't know when it's going to be released. However, things in this kind of world of OpenAI is moving very quickly, and to keep up, Microsoft would have to release this fairly soon now that they've made the announcement. So it should be coming down the pipeline fairly soon. But with a lot of Microsoft products, they are kind of released as a kind of the initial kind of version of the solution, and then they build on it over time and bring in more and more features. So I'd expect to see some of this coming out into some of the sort of more kind of popular apps, like Microsoft Teams gets updated quite a lot. So I imagine the first kind of versions of that will likely be released through there, and then we'll start seeing them being drip fed through into the other areas like Outlook and Word and Excel, and over time it'll build on more and more of those features. So I just want to thank you for joining today's webinar. As I say, if you've got any questions, please feel free to use the comments box below. We will be actively looking at this for the next sort of 5 minutes or so and answering any of your kind of questions. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. So for more kind of how-to videos, webinars, things like that, take a look at our channel. We've got loads of content about SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Platform, some content's coming soon related to Azure and Microsoft 365, as well as things like tenant-to-tenant migrations. So subscribe to our channel for more future content. Thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.